Hi everyone, welcome to Conversation with Within. My name is Nanda Araújo. I'm so grateful, thankful for the opportunity to be here today and connect with you guys one more time. If you are new to my channel, please feel free to subscribe it. Please like this video and please feel free to make any comments about this conversation today. I really appreciate your support, and your love to my channel. Today I have a very special guest, her name is Destiny Thompson, and today she's going to spend some time here with you guys talking about her spiritual awakening, her spiritual journey, disincarnation, and the whole spiritual journey, her spiritual gifts. But I do suggest for you to listen this conversation to beginning to the end, because the things she's going to talk about today with us, she's going to share with us, better say, I guarantee and I believe 100% they can help you in your spiritual journey, my friend. They can help you to understand that nothing is impossible when you believe it's possible. And this is always a spiritual solution for any situation that we are facing in our lives. Welcome, Destiny. And thank you very much to take the time today to come here to talk with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to share, to inspire, to motivate. So I'm again, thank you for having me.
No, I love. I'd like to ask the first question. What type of belief that you were raised, by your parents?
So I lived with almost all of my family members. So in the beginning, when I started with my mom and my stepdad, religion wasn't really talked about. It wasn't an atheist type of thing. It just wasn't really something that was talked about. And then when I was 14, I kind of had a transition in life where I moved in with my aunt, and she was, okay, we're going to get you baptized. So she's like, I'm Christian, or I forget what she was. And she's like, what do you want? And I was like, I mean, I don't know. So I chose my friend's church because her dad was the pastor, and it ended up being a Lutheran church. And from there, she had me be in the church choir. I attended church every Sunday. It was definitely at that point kind of like forced down my throat a little bit. And kind of through that 4 years of living with her from when I was in a freshman in high school up until I was a college senior in high school. And then pretty much outside of that, when I went into college and then kind of pretty much went on my own, it was a journey of, again, it's kind of like where everything kind of started, because now I'm on my own of, okay, this has been forced down my throat forever. And when I got married, really young, I think I was 22. My husband at the time, he was atheist. So again, really wasn't truly circulated too much. And so religion wasn't really a part of my life too much. I mean, I obviously want to be like, oh my God, and oh God, help me, things of that nature. So I definitely still believe that it existed one way or the other. Um, it wasn't until really later on, which we'll get to later when my papa passed away, much later in my life, that was when it started becoming like, okay, this is who I want to talk to now. And that was kind of like the connection to that as far as in a godly matter. And then as I shoot forward, my spiritual awakening itself happened after multiple failed relationships where I threw my hands in the air and I was like, obviously, I don't know how to make the right decisions. I keep choosing wrong. I'm just so exhausted of putting all of this energy into everyone and everything and constantly feeling like I was the one in lack. So that's kind of like grand scheme of things before we start at the beginning to go to the end. So in a nutshell, pretty much majority of my life, religion was used and abused, right? The hypocritic way of life of do as I say, not as I do. That was pretty much my upbringing in religion, watching my aunt live contradictory to the way that she was forcing me to believe and live in a sense. So it was a very unique childhood to say the least. So adulthood was where the story really begins of um once I got kicked out and I chose my husband, we were together for 9 years. And again, like God wasn't really talked about. And it was a pretty stressful relationship. I came from a really neglectful childhood when I was born into, like many people. I had narcissistic parents, I have drug addict parents, I had, I got physically beat and DIFUS and all that stuff was involved. So childhood was definitely pretty rough. So then when I transitioned into I lived with my dad for a little bit, and that was a crazy experience because he's an alcoholic as well. So I kind of got to see the negative side of that. So that wasn't fun. And then when I moved into with my aunt at 13 was because my mom burnt our house down. So at this point, my sisters and we had to decide what family members we were gonna go to. And at this point, I had already lived with my mom. I lived with my grandmother. Um, and so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to choose my aunt. And that was pretty much a really big turning point in my life because I went from my mom being, we lived in trailer parks our whole life and handed down clothes and that. And then I moved in with my aunt, and she was a little bit more better off. She had a couple businesses, she had a couple properties that she owned. So when I moved in with her, the first year was kind of like us learning each other. And we didn't really like push too much in either way. I wasn't being this over, exaggerated kid, and she wasn't being this super hard um, aunt figure yet. So the first year was kind of just like us tiptoeing in, and then the second year was it's definitely where we got to see our different sides. I think that because she was raised as a lesbian, that she didn't really have many parental traits per se. So she was kind of just like going off on the whim. And I wasn't a bad kid at all. I was definitely always the one who thought I was going to be in trouble, but I really kept to myself. So she kind of like pushed that on me a lot of like, don't be bad, don't do this. Like I got grounded for bringing a fork to work, things of that nature. She was really strict, no skinny jeans, no bikinis. I really didn't get time to go hang out with friends. So it was go to school, go to work. I worked at one of her places that she owned. And then it was do your homework, go to sleep, start the day over. So that was pretty much the 4 years of my life of anxiety, walking on eggshells, trying to predict the future. Cause not the time I didn't know what a narcissist was, but once I started dating some, I started to real call that, oh, this is how she was acting. This is who she was. Do as I say, not as I do. Um, and then once I got kicked out, my aunt didn't like who I was dating, ultimately turned into my husband. Um, I was like that 18-year-old girl who knew everything that she wanted. And I realized I did not. Life came with a lot of lessons. And I think the biggest thing that I want people to take away from this story is it doesn't really matter where you start off in life. And I think the hardest thing for people to realize is even myself sometimes that when you have that saying of, oh my God, I'm not the only one, that I think sometimes it's just nice for people to have a place to hear and to just feel that what they're going through, that they're not the only person in the world that's going through that. And that through this story, that there are gifts through literally telling people, I don't give a crap what you say. I know my dark side. I know the things that I've been through. I know where I'm going. And that is your biggest, it's almost like your security blanket that outside of obviously the 10 commandment type things, but in life, if you feel like you want to do it, there's nothing stopping you. There's no mistake. There's no past. There's no parent that will stop you from getting to where you want to go. And like you said in the beginning, everything comes down to the belief, you believing in yourself. And the energy built behind that is the actions that we take. So this story is, I hope that people take away that you can come from something so dark, so negative. My mom's favorite statement was that I had a black cloud that I always said I had above me, that no matter what I did, there was always a black cloud following me. And to get to a point now where I consider myself a master manifester, I could literally manifest things in minutes, moments, days. It's crazy to think that it's just the way that you believe about yourself. And sometimes, however we want to call this simulation, that we're put in these situations because it is destined for us to grow out of it. And I think the power that we get, which is radiating authenticity, is manifestation, which is the way that we get the things that we want in life. Um, so I think for me, the spiritual awakening was beginning through all of these relationships because at that time, I was good with my money. I was in a relationship. So at this point, I'm like, okay, all the other, I'm good. I don't have to worry about anything else in my life. My body, no. My hobbies, no. Um, so I put all of my energy into this relationship and I lived in a small town. So one day a week was my hoorah. We went out on a Thursday with my girlfriends, and that was the best that there was to do in my little small town. And for 9 years, well, let me go back for I did cheat in that relationship in the very early beginning. So at that point, when we talked about it, we're like, okay, we're young and dumb. Like, we still like each other. I still do love you. At that time, I couldn't have told you why that I did that. So I think really we both agreed to move forward. But looking back, I can now see that those 9 years was us learning that obviously once something like that happens, there really is no fix. And maybe there is, but for us there was not. So for 9 years I was learning that no matter what I did, because I was so broken that I did that, it really I couldn't at that time really tell you why I did it. Because in my mind, I'm like, I do love this person. I was in college, I just stupid, right? And it's like I'm like, no, like I love you so much. I'm going to show you every single day, like how much that I really wish I could take that back. And in my heart and soul, I believe that. And I spent 9 years doing so much stuff for this person, writing letters, writing essays, writing my heart out on paper, trying to express like why I wasn't feeling like I was getting loved, or, why we slept in the same bed, but we didn't touch each other, and why we didn't go anywhere together. Every time I went to go somewhere, he didn't want to go. It was the end of the world. And for 9 years, that was what I accepted and allowed. And, my girlfriend that I had at the time, I kept asking her every time we fought, right? Which was like all the time. And I was like, oh my God, I'll leave her name out. I was like, what do I do? What do I do? And she's like, no, Destiny, like, it's fine. Just in all these times, it kept just like brushing it under the rug. Just let it go. Just let it go. With really, it was my intuition being like, hey, we're talking to you. You're not listening, but we have to allow you to keep doing this. So for 9 years, we were together, and I decided that my last year of owning my business, I started a cake company. And for 4 years, I was doing cakes on the side. I still had my regular jobs full time because I didn't quite trust myself with that yet. I didn't have a quite brick and mortar. I rented out space. So that was nice for me. And once I opened that up, I kind of took my emphasis off of the relationship, and I kind of just started putting more love into creating my company and getting more customers, and putting how many cakes can I do in a weekend before I can't do anymore. So once I started putting all that energy into that, realizing that I could create my own freedom, I was getting so excited about being a part of somebody's special day, like somebody's wedding cake, even though any wedding that you go to, the cake is not the focal point, right? That's just something you eat at the end. But for me, it's like that's like somebody's like that's almost as important as the bride and the groom. So I really love that I got to do that, customize it to them, to their relationship, to their experience together. And then I started realizing I'm like, I wanna do more. I feel stuck here. So I said to my husband at the time, I was like, hey, what do you think about moving to Florida? And he's like, what? And I'm like, what do you mean, what? Like, there's so much opportunity. I can have my business, I can scale it up. There's going to be so many more things to do. He was a chef. So ultimately, you can kind of get a job anywhere. Of course, you have to be a little picky, but he's like, no. And I'm like, no. And he's like, no. So I started thinking, and I was like, okay, if I do my business full time and I make all the money we need to rent the pod, which was like 6 grand, rent the house out because we bought a house at that time, to rent it out. So to clean it, have people come, have everything done legal wise to rent it out, the whole shebang. I said, will you move to Florida with me? And then the only thing I want from you is half of first month's rent. And he goes, okay. So I literally worked my butt off for the season back home was like 3.5 months. So for 3.5 months, I was doing 5 wedding cakes a weekend. I put my serving jobs kind of on the back burner, just did it a couple days a week rather than full time. And I made 25 grand that summer. And I was able to take all of the money, do everything we needed, pack everything up, pay bills, all that stuff. And we got here. I fell in love with it. I started over in St. Pete. It was so beautiful. And obviously, there was a heck of a lot of people. There's a city now, which I've never experienced. And I was like, this is cool. It's like, there's so many things to do. And I look at him and he's got his headphones on. He's crouched over, wowing it on the computer. And I'm like, come on, like, can we go do something now? I'm like, okay. So I go off and I go do my thing. I find a brewery. It was Three Daughters Brewery in St. Pete, which that was pretty cool. Um, and I just started realizing day after day, I was coming home and doing the same thing. And I'm just over here wanting to like, as in a Sagittarius, I'm just ready to just take it all in. And this person's just like, no. So I just had to, I had to make the decision and I'll be like, listen, this isn't working. This isn't working. As much as I love you, as much as everything that we've been through, I'm like, it's like, I just can't keep doing this. And throughout that entire relationship, obviously, he still grudged on me. So at this point, he's like, that's fine. That's fine. Whatever. And I was like, okay, well, we have this rent together or this lease together. Can you at least wait till I find something on my own because I can't afford both? And he goes, fine. Within probably within like a week or so, I had something set aside, down payment, and he took his truck. He packed up everything that he could fit in it, and he went back to New Jersey and haven't really talked since. He moved, the renters were still in the place. When they tried to buy the house, they couldn't qualify. My husband at the time tried to qualify on his own, but he didn't. So ultimately, we had to decide to sell the house for whatever it was worth and split the difference. And that's pretty much the end of that. So at this point, I'm like, okay, Destiny's excited. I'm still sad. I'm nervous. I've never been on my own before because the minute I got kicked out, I always had, my ex at the time. So I was like, okay, this is crazy, but I know that this is what I want. This is what I want to do. Everything's going to work out. Going back a little bit, when I moved here from New Jersey, I knew the job that I wanted. I had done so much research. I had done all of these things. I'm like, this is where I want to work. And I'd called and called and called, and I just could not get into to get into an interview. So finally, when I got down here, I called again and I got a hold of HR, and HR is like, you've been like calling over and over again. I'm like, I know. I said, I want to get a talk to this manager. And they're like, okay, we're going to call the restaurant for you and we'll set you up an interview. And I was like, oh my God, yes, thank you so much. So as a Jersey girl, I've noticed that I'm going to walk in the door. I'm going to put my face in your face until you tell me to go home. So I basically did that. I walked into the restaurant. The manager was like, yeah, you're a pretty hard bargain. Everybody told me how hard you've been trying to get into this interview. I said, well, I've moved here from New Jersey and I've known that this is the restaurant that I want to work at. It was upscale. It's the Rumfish on, St. Pete Beach, where it has that 33,500 gallon. Yeah, I still remember. Fish tank in the back with like 33 different types of fish. I was like, this is going to be so cool. It's a touristy spot. It'll be busy. It's got the hotel in the back. Perfect. Changed my life. I worked for 2 years at that place and I like upped my way of living about a time and a half. So I was like, wow, this is awesome. I'm doing this for myself. So I had this whole new sense of freedom. Now that I had my money in order, now I started going back into, okay, I want love. And through this story, you'll learn wanting and needing things come with different stories. But at the time, I was like, I want and I need love. So I went out, put myself out on a dating site. I think it was Bumble. I think I tried Tinder first and I realized real quick what Tinder was for. So deleted that one. Bumble came up. It says it was more for meeting new people. So put all my information on there. Boom, instantly bunch of catches. So I was like, okay, cool. This one like surfing, they like golfing. And we went on talk for just a little bit. And then they're like, okay, let's meet up. Let's go on a date. And I was like, all right, sure. And this is where I learned love bombing. So at the time, obviously, I didn't know, but I was so excited to get into this relationship. Again, no true connection to myself yet. I'm just all about what can I do? I'm wanting to make other people happy. So I lay it all out on the line. This is me. This is what I love. This is what I don't love. This is what I don't like. Don't do that. So I gave him everything. And real quickly, I learned that this person was really good with words. They're really good at listening and giving me the things that I was saying that I wanted, which was amazing. And I was like, wow, this is what it's like to feel loved, right? Somebody listens, they care, they're doing all these things that I say. And I'm over here being the perfect girlfriend too. I'm cooking dinner, I'm having surprises at the front door and having little notes for when he gets home, before we even lived together, like having all of these things. And about 4 months in, there was one thing that I ended up asking him not ever to say. Because from my last relationship with my ex, every time we got into an argument, what he threw in my face is, you can go who you want. And that killed me. It killed me. So at this relationship, I was like, hey, listen, I can handle almost anything. I can handle anything. Just please, if we get into an argument, don't tell me that one line. And he goes, oh, okay, okay. And about that 4 months in, where again, I hadn't truly known as like an empathetic woman that things were changing. But I just remembered that we got into an argument and I could like still see where we were standing. And he like stood there and he looked at me and he had his like little head bobbing and he's like, you can go who you want. And at this point, there was nothing in our relationship that would make him say that, that would make him feel that type of way. Like we were too good, you know what I mean? For the time being. So I was just like taken back for a minute. And again, not knowing my worth, not knowing my respect, not knowing that that was literally something I could call the boundary at that time, that 4 months in, he said it. And after that, it was kind of just like month after month, it was just relationship of him taking, not doing the lovey things, not the good morning text. And at this point, he asked me to move in. So now I feel like I was in a stickier situation. Like, okay, I made this decision. We moved in. Maybe this is just like before where we're just got to work through these things. So I stayed. I didn't make the decision to be like, yo, this is like one thing I asked you not to say and you did it. So a year and a half goes by and our conversations, I spent 9 years trying to like tell this one person how I felt and they just go, okay, breaks your heart after you write 9 pages of your soul. And then I go into this relationship and I'm like, they're going to listen to everything I have to say so we can work on this. And then I have this person where, as I started getting the nerve to, baby, can I tell you something? This is how I'm feeling. And they go, yeah, yeah, tell me. And they go, I didn't do it. Prove it to me. I didn't. You're so extra. You're always making shit up. You're being so crazy. And I'm just like, what? Okay, you're right. Maybe. So at this point, I'm like, I'm not going to get keep called crazy. So I was having voice recordings on my phone. I was having screenshots of text messages. I was literally, my brain was going into default mode. I'm like, and I told him one day, I was like, you remind me of my aunt. And I didn't know at that time what I meant by that statement. But once I was in it and I started doing my research, because I've always been a learner, a grower. How can I evolve? What can I learn so that whatever the situation needed to be? And I started realizing through learning through that relationship, I'm like, oh, my aunt was a narcissist. Do as I say, not as I do. Everything that you did for her, it came with a cost, which is why I don't never wanted anything from anybody because I felt like if I do something, they're gonna make me do something back. So um through after a year and a half of being told I'm crazy, I had gotten COVID at the time and I was in the hospital sick. I was weighing like 102 pounds because between not eating, because my stomach was shrinking, my partner and I weren't couldn't stop arguing for the sake of anything. And when I argue and I get sad, again, it's just extra. I don't want to eat. So when I went to the hospital, I asked the doctors, I was like, how much do I weigh? And they're like, something kilograms. And I'm like, how about in America? how much do I weigh in pounds? And she's like, 102. And I'm like, you don't think that's concerning? And so I went home and at the time, I've never had a savings, right? So if there was a moment in time, it was, what do I got to do to figure it out? There was no stack of pile wedding ready to pay for anything. So when I realized, like, for the sake of my own health, I love this person. I would have went to the grave to this person with this person, even though I felt the way that I did, confused, anxious. I still love that person. And I called my mom one day. I was like, Mom, I don't know what I got to do. I said, I weigh 102 pounds. We can't stop fighting. I was like, I know that I need to leave. I said, everything in me is telling me that I just need to leave. I said, I don't have the money. I said, I don't know where I'm going to go yet. I said, but I just know that I need to leave for the sake of my own sanity, for my health, I cannot get better. And she was able to scrounge up the $1,400 that I needed to put down for the down payment, for the down deposit. And after that, I was a little weary, but again, I was like, okay, I've been through all of this before. I've been through harder things. This is only another level in life. You're gonna get through it. And I've realized that through my situations, that myself and many other people, that what I didn't realize I was getting really good at was evaluating myself in a relationship, even though I wasn't noticing what I was learning until it was over, but I was still doing things that were aligning me with reasons why things weren't working anymore. So once this relationship kind of like hit the fan, I moved out. I went into the spare bedroom. Luckily, I did have a relationship, a narcissist that wasn't like to the end bad. Like there was no hitting, but yelling, screaming. Luckily, he allowed us to like separate space until I, met the date of moving in. And after that, I was like, absolutely no dating apps, absolutely not. You can't tell a person like who they are. Like you just need to talk to them, hang out with them. Energy is everything. You can't
Yes.
lie,
Yeah.
right? So, and anybody who's listening, if you've been on Bumble or Tinder and you've talked for hours, days, weeks, even, and then you finally meet them in person and you go, oh, well, this isn't good. So I will go to the grave saying dating apps are, if you want a quick time, beautiful meet and greet. But if you're looking for connection, energy is everything. And trust.
100%. Yeah.
And so during that relationship, right before the narcissist is what I call him, and I got together. There was a short period where I was at work, and there was somebody I was interested in at work, but they made it very clear like they weren't really gonna be in a relationship. That they thought I was pretty, and we had good conversation while we were at work, but they made it very clear they weren't ready for a relationship. So we hung out a couple times. He would play the guitar, which I thought was really awesome. But his thing was he was very connected to God. Him and his family, his sisters went to church every Sunday. Not really a lot of cursing, so like a very fun, like they drank and had fun, which I thought was, whatever, to each their own, but they were very, very godly. They lived by the God, by the Bible. And I think that was where we didn't really have like a lot of talks about God, but there were some influence in there where I was like, okay, like I can see your story. I love that for you. Like that's very radiant. Obviously, through my when I was with the narcissist, that's when my pup died. So that's when I started getting a little bit more into it, because now I was looking up and I was talking to pup. I was, instead of like looking up and talking to something that, kind of made me feel neglected, feel left out. There's a lot of people who think like, oh God, why are you doing this to me? Right. So it's like to kind of go back and to get to a place where now I'm like, okay, it's not really God I'm talking to. I can talk to my pup now. And that gave me a different type of feeling. And that connection is kind of what started it, because now all the way moving forward, yes, I talk to God. I talk to my spirit guides every single day, all the time, out loud in the middle of a day. So I just want people to hear like, whether you say source, God, you put a word to it, at the end of the day, if you do believe that there is an energy, right, that created all of this, if we all know on a scientific level, energy is how everything exists, that if you can find something that allows you to slightly connect more than maybe where you're at now, if there's somebody that's passed away, that was kind of my connection, and through that was speaking to my pup all the time. Once I got out of that narcissistic relationship, um, I was still a lover. I still wanted love, man. I came out of it. I was like, I'm not going to use dating apps. I ended up switching jobs. I wanted to do something a little less fine dining. So I chose the Salt Shack, which is this really cool bay seashell kind of vibe that overlooks the Gandhi. So I was like, okay, this is really cool. I get to wear shorts and a tank top. I get to run around with my little handhold machine. What do you need? What do you need? So I was living my best life. I got to run around, be outside in the sun. So that was great. And I was loving life. This job I was at for a few months. And again, I was able to take another pay level. I was able to upgrade my life again. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I'm making like $400 to $500 a day. So I'm like, okay, cool. Now I get to really like have nice things. I got a nicer car. I got a nicer place, right? I did the whole American dream thing, which I learned that lesson the hard way too. But I loved everything that I had. I loved the life that I was creating. And then all of a sudden, as I'm at work, um, I end up seeing somebody who just got hired. And normally I'm a team player. I'll help you. If you're lazy, I might not help you as much because I help people who help, right? But this person, I was like, wow, they're new. They're running around. They're doing their job. And they were cleaning off their own table. So I was like, well, let me go over there and help them. So as we're busting off the table, we introduced ourselves. I'm like, hi, I'm Destiny. I'm this, so oh, that's cool. And they were in a relationship at a time, but I've always been like a container for people to talk to. So this person started opening up to me and telling me about their relationship and how crazy it was, and obviously the one-sided part of the story. And I resonated a little bit with what he was going through, and their relationship kind of fell off. We started talking a little bit more. My intuition and his both would have agreed at that time that we knew internally like it probably wasn't a good idea for us to get together for the sake of what I knew, what had just happened, you know, not even looking to it in a more professional way of like, oh, you just got out of a relationship. Probably isn't the best to get into another one. Because I would have been a hypocrite at that time too. So we didn't listen to our intuition and we got together, and I had to find out that he was addicted to Coke. And as a person who doesn't dabble in that, I was like, it's okay. I love you anyway. Like, we just, just whatever. I obviously didn't know what that entailed or what that journey was going to entail. I was just like, this person's really cool and they love me and they see me for who I am. And this was like the first person that like felt like a best friend. So I was like, wow, this is like, okay, like I can love you through this. So fast forward, obviously it comes with lessons. The biggest one out of that relationship was in an addiction relationship, even if it's not as bad as you think somebody else's is, the problem becomes with addiction is that they can't love you more than they love themselves.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they love the drug or whatever
Yeah.
the addiction is. So I had to learn that there isn't enough love. There's not enough love that I can give. I can't love you more than you love yourself because they couldn't accept it. I go, I love you. And they go, how? Like, what do you mean, how? Like, I'm telling you, I love you. Right. So that was a lesson in itself. And the hardest part about that relationship was it wasn't horrible. It really wasn't bad. What killed me was the dishonesty. The fact that I was saying, hey, listen, I understand you have a problem. I just want you to tell me. Tell me you're thinking about it. Tell me you did it. Tell me you want to do it. Tell me you're about to do it. Just tell me. And that wasn't something that could be done. The guilt and the shame overrode the ability to just be honest, even though I'm saying here I'm in your corner. And Um, Fast forward to the end of that, he ended up coming to me and we were fighting whatnot. And he came over and he sat on the edge of my bed and he looked me dead in the face. And I could tell he was on it because he was very just like no emotion, you know, big old eyeballs. And he goes, Destiny, I can't do this with you anymore. I can't do this with you knowing that I'm hurting you and knowing that I can't stop. And that was the moment in my life that started my spiritual awakening. That was the moment when I threw my hands in the air because we tried to snuggle for a second after we both agreed that, okay, this is what it is. Obviously, it felt weird. Energy exchange is not going to be good with that. So he got up and he left. And I had two choices in that moment. I thought to myself, I could be angry. I could be, why me? Why did you do this? Who are you? Why did you, you know, all these things I said, or a second option arose. I was like, this person literally had the balls to tell me that the balls that I didn't have to walk away
Yeah.
and to say that I can't do this to you anymore. And I was like, this person I have to have compassion for because in that moment, I knew that they loved me, but they knew that they weren't going to be able to give me what I wanted and that I needed to have compassion that this drug overrode what he really wanted. Right. And that for me was like, okay, I've chosen I've chosen somebody who has ignored me, which I played a part in that, but that was 9 years. Then I chose a narcissist for 2 years of somebody who treated me okay, but then made me feel crazy. And then I got into a relationship with a drug addict, and I'm like, okay. That's when I threw my hands in there. I'm like, obviously, I do not know how to choose. So I'm just leaving this to you. I'm putting everything into me. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. At this point, love isn't what I wanted, right? I'm like, I'm good with love for right now. I don't really have any to give. Before, for those 12, however many years, I had so much to give. But at that point, I was like, okay, I'm tired. What is it? What do you want me to do? So after that, I started thinking about myself, what it is that I learned. I started thinking about all the questions I've had to ask myself. And ultimately, what it was doing was allowing me to heal. It was allowing me to see what I wanted, and then noticing what I didn't want, but then also who I was becoming, who I became through being with all those people. Because now I'm like, okay, I'm tired. I'm exhausted. Destiny now doesn't want love. So I got the idea to write a journal. I started seeing on TikTok, I was like, passive income, what can I do? And it said, oh, just make a daily journal, sell it for $7 on Amazon, make $1, and it'll take you forever to make it. But I'm like, that's cool. One day I'll look in there and it'll have like $5,000 in it. So, on Canva, I figured out how to create the book. And then I was like, you know what? Why don't I write a real journal with all of the questions I asked myself, all of the energetic shifting questions that I had to ask myself in order to get to where I'm at right now. And even though at that time it wasn't not where I'm at now, but the journal that I wrote gave me a foundation to say, this is who I am. These are my beliefs. This is what I will allow. These are my non-negotiables. These are my values. These are my priorities. This is what I know that I could charge somebody right now if I felt like I could. Right. So it's how it can change the world. Is the irony is you're not changing the outside world, as you're changing your inside world. So each question that you're the only person you have the answer to is giving yourself the courage, giving yourself permission, giving yourself the ability and the time in a world that's been trying to tell you who you are, that it's the time you give yourself to go out and say, this is who I am. And the authenticity that I now share with the world, what I help people learn how to do is to radiate authenticity. Is that is how you get what you want in life. I've spent, you know, my aunt being a businesswoman when I moved in at 13. What do you want to do? What are you going to do for the rest of your life? What are you going to do? And I'm like, I just came out of living at like a hobo with my mom. I didn't even think college was on the table. Right. And now my aunt was like, what are you going to do? And I was like, oh, I'm going to go to a pastry chef. I want to decorate cakes. And ultimately that is what I did. But when I got COVID, it took my senses away. So I was left with asking myself again, who am I? I'm not a pastry chef anymore. Who am I? So I started realizing that why I liked wedding cakes was because I was helping people. I love being a part of their special day. So then that journal was kind of like, okay, how do I help people again? How do I be a part of somebody's life? These are the questions that allowed me to set new standards for myself. I was getting better relationships. I was speaking up for myself more. I was learning to, every time I did what I wanted to do, spoke my mind, regardless of what I thought somebody else's reaction was going to be. It just skyrocketed me closer to what I was supposed to be doing. And after 16 years of failed relationships, I wasn't scared to lose anything anymore. Bye. Right. So I went from being the girl who held on to everything so tight because I was so scared for it to fly away to maybe I could be a little too shoe fly. My boyfriend's called me out on that. He's like, you're a little quick. I'm like, I know, I love you. It's just me. um, but after after I wrote that journal, a different energy shift happened within me. I was like, okay, I wanted to be creative again. I was getting that creative spark back. So I decided I wanted to start a podcast. Right. So I started doing Googling. I've never been in a financial standpoint to buy anything. So I'm like, what free webinars can I do? What free information can I get? I went on Amazon and I purchased my pod track. I call it a beat boot machine, right? So purchased the pod track and I got my microphone and I had it all set up. And now I'm like, okay, how do I create a podcast? Because I hadn't gotten that information yet, but I'm sitting here staring at my new set. So 2 days later, after I like look up and I'm like, man, I really want to create a podcast. And I kind of just let the thought go. 2 days later, I'm at work and I have two guests that sit down. And the funny part is they weren't originally in my section. They moved to sit at this couch, which couches aren't the most anticipated at my restaurant. They're kind of the last thing to sit. So I thought that was funny. And they're super cute, talking to each other, doing like a little business thing. And they end up asking me, so what do you screw this restaurant? What do you do outside of here? What are you? And I was like, oh, actually, I'm really excited. I'm starting to learn to create a podcast. And she like looks at her husband real fast and she looks back at me and she's like, oh my God. She's like, I've been wanting to create a podcast. She's like, I actually just bought this app. And I go, Mind Valley? And she goes, yeah, how'd you know? I'm like, because it's what I couldn't afford. and she goes, yeah. She's like, well, I love your energy. I love your story. How about I send you my credentials and you learn it and they come back and teach me because I don't have time. And they have like this big corporate business. They buy real estate. She's like the accountant. He does the construction part of things. So like that big company. So I was like, oh my God, absolutely. So she gives me her business card. I go in the kitchen right away and I email both of them, even though I know the woman's probably going to be the one who responds. I emailed him and I emailed her. And I didn't get an email back right away, but the next day she sends me her credentials. Literally, she sends me her email and her password. And I go, there's no way. Log in, bring it up. Beautiful. I take the class, and within a week, I had my whole podcast. I had the 3 first episodes it told me I needed that introduce people of why they're going to listen to it, who I am, and all that jazz. And I end up going back to her. I meet at her company outlet. It's not like her real company, it's like a office space. And she goes, come on over. I got something cool to show you. And I go, okay, cool. Bring over my laptop. I start showing her how to do it and what I've learned. And I walk in and she has an entire podcast studio. And I'm like, this is crazy. She's got like the whole legit set. She's got like the lights and everything. And she's like, she's like, I don't know the name of it yet, but I know what it's going to be about. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. And we stopped talking for a little bit. We go on our separate ways. And I think a couple months ago, she ended up reaching out to me and she goes, Destiny, I had somebody cancel, but do you want to come on our podcast for our first couple episodes? And I'm like, you have it set up? She's like, yeah, we got a whole team and everything. She got a whole camera crew. I'm like, I don't have money for that yet, but I'll get there. But I was like, that's so awesome. I'm so happy for you. And she's like, it's called the something in the accountant, the contractor and the accountant and the contractor. I'll have to get back to you on that one. But they do it about talking about business, but I think that was so cool. But so from literally just saying, I really want a podcast because I want to share my story. I want to share the lessons that I've learned. So it's like every lesson I've learned in life, from how many times I've had to buy a car here in Florida. So if you need to buy a car, you'll find that on there. Taking out a loan, learning all the lessons I've learned the hard way. If you're going to take out a loan, take out max capacity and just put back what you don't, because the credit's going to hit you on your credit score no matter what. So just take it all out and put it back. And then just lessons in life, relationships, family, career, like it's literally everything. And boom, so then I got that. And then I got excited about looking on how to create the journal on TikTok. I was like, okay, what else can I do to make some income? So then I was like, oh, been seeing people create earrings with resin and epoxy. And I was like, well, that's really cool. So again, I got some materials, maybe like $150 worth of materials. And they weren't so great in the beginning, but I was still so excited about putting them together. And I still posted the videos on Instagram. I made my own Instagram account. And probably 2 weeks after making a few pieces, I started doing cutting boards because I was a chef. So I thought that was really fun, um, creating all these fun things. And then I told my coworker one day, I'm like standing at the service well and I'm telling him I'm making all this stuff. And he's like, that's really cool. I said, I'm gonna have a business. And he goes, oh yeah. I said, yeah. And I was like, give me a couple weeks. I said, I promise. And he goes, okay, okay. You know, disappears. We don't talk to each other about it anymore. We're not even close. I don't even know why I told him. And within 2 weeks, I think it was, posting videos, sharing reels. My products are getting a little bit better now at this point. They look a little bit more professional because I've been putting a lot of energy into it. And I get a message on Instagram. And I go, okay, open it up and it says maker and merchant. And I was like, oh, okay. It said Tampa, Florida. I was like, okay. So I open it up and it goes, hey, Destiny, we've been following your products. They look super cool. I think they would be a really cool fit. In addition to our store that we're opening up in the Citrus Park Mall, it's basically a bunch of small entrepreneurs. You rent out a table or wall space and you get to display your products for a monthly fee. And I'm like, I don't know anything about this monthly fee. That scares me a little bit, but yes, I'm down. I'll do it, whatever it is. Send me the information. And not knowing really what I was setting myself up to, I didn't make any money doing it. I actually think I lost a little bit, but I was so excited that I was making a bunch of these jewelry. I got to set up this table. They sold it while I wasn't even there. So it was just literally one of those things where my items were in a store, people shop, take it to the cash register and buy it. I got a percentage of whatever it was sold. They take their percentage for selling it. And it was a really good deal. I learned about, what the different types of commissions and convenience fee and all that stuff was for business aspect of things. So I was learning about money. I felt good about it. I did it for a whole year until I was like, okay, like I wasn't really benefiting off of this. So I decided to do markets instead. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to sign up for a few markets. Signed up for the markets, got into them, did that for about another year during all of this. And then it got really hot and very exhausting to do that as a single woman to set up those tents. But when you, the story, what I want to pull out of those is when you just do the things that you feel called to do in your heart, regardless if I got to a point where I just don't tell anybody because there's too many people who could potentially say that's stupid. Why would you want to do that? And kind of cut your excitement down. So anytime, once I got to a point where my relationships were the only thing that ever held me back in a sense, once they were over, what I realized that even though I was learning through the relationships, once I got to that rock bottom point, that is when my brain goes, okay, What's the next plan? There's nothing stopping you, nobody telling you at this point. I got exiled from my family a long time ago, right? So I've only been left with, what does destiny want? What does destiny need? How long does destiny stay? So, as exhausting as that felt, that was my liberation through my entire life. Was there was the only person ever stopping me from getting that next thing that I thought I wanted, needed, deserved, or even didn't want was myself. And once I started realizing that, once I was getting excited about what it is that I wanted to do, not just, oh, what do I want to think about right now? Apples. Maybe I'll manifest an apple right now. But really getting the excitement, like how they say pull the energy is like thinking about people wearing my jewelry. That gets me excited and energetically excited about people wearing it, which is how I think, again, I attracted in that experience. So when I got excited about creating the podcast, and I was seeing myself helping people, I think that's what drew it in. Making my wedding cakes, I went from making one wedding cake a weekend, but getting super excited about how many cakes I could do for people. And I was doing 5 dozen, might not sound a lot to a lot of people, but baking it, decorating it, delivering it, 5 wedding cakes a weekend for one person is a lot. And
Yeah.
that was my that was my max capacity. So, but again, like I was having to turn down. Um, Looking back, if I wanted to stay in Cape May, I could see that I could have elevated, taken the next step, and hired somebody, but that wasn't how that was supposed to go. But now, once I started realizing I wasn't going to get my senses back through the podcast, through the jewelry, that's when I started being like, okay, what else? How else now? Who am I going to be? Basically, because I'm not a pastry chef, I'm not a jewelry maker. I'm not literally a podcaster. That's just something you do. And I'm like, I just really want to help people. So through the journal, I was decided that I wanted to help people, and I knew that I needed to be seen. So that's when I created my TikTok. And at first, that was scary as anything, because I'm like, I have to sit here and stare at myself. I have to talk to people. People aren't going to want to care what I say, right? So you have all of these talks in your head, and I'm like, but I know that I have to get out the perfectionism, because my story is going to help people, regardless if it's, they've never been short reels. Mine have never been less than 5 minutes. I can't make a video less than 5 minutes, but um, I was doing it and doing it and doing it. And I was making them, oh my God, maybe 5 times, because I'm not an editor. So I would just redo it and start over until I got the message right. Until now, I can pretty much make a 10-minute video with not stopping, no editing or anything like that. I do get my point across. And my biggest pull away from my entire life is that manifesting is literally what I've been doing my entire life. But when you're doing what your family tells you to do, when you're doing what society tells you to do, when you're living through society's definition of success, which is you have to have a certain amount of things, you have to have materialistic things. And, we all know people who've gotten what it is that they've ultimately wanted in life and still aren't happy, right? So, what I've been gifted the calling to is there are people who've mastered making money who are just as in need of my authentic providing or provide provision. I don't know what I'm trying to say there. Um, and that's why I started kind of like reaching out to people. I went to a wellness event and I started really kind of understanding the different type of atmosphere that you can have, that when you're in your own head and majority of the people don't think the way that you're even trying to think, or that if you've been doing that, if everybody's been left path and you've been right path your whole life, that I was like, man, it feels kind of suffocating to be in a world where I'm like, okay, I am starting to notice I have these kind of gifts. Like I am, even if I call myself special, right? We all are all special. But like if I
Yes.
call myself special and I go, okay, like this, I'm not crazy. This is something that I'm doing. And even though I didn't have a word for it yet, manifesting wasn't in my realm of knowledge yet. Once I wrote that journal, I had just started learning what a chakra was. So once I took this knowledge of my life and then I started learning about chakras, before I was done writing the book, I added that chakra page. Every question is about my life, basically, about a question you need to know about your standards or whatnot. But there's 2 pages that say, what are the 7 chakras? And the research you would do is they would have to Google it. But I now realize my program I want to create will do that for them. But they would have to Google what the 7 chakras were. And then the next page was, now that you've learned about them, which ones did you go, oh, that's me, or oh, you know what I mean? So those were the chakras was really what opened me up to everything, because I'm like, okay, they're saying these energy centers in my body are just as important as my heart and my liver. So let me dabble into this. And that went into the rabbit hole of everything, of the spiritual side of things, of wow, this is the definition of what I've been doing my entire life, but what I didn't know existed. And to get to a point where I can tell people, you don't need, I'm helped to bridge people with the gap of, you don't need to hit the rock bottom to change, right? I'm at the point now where every relationship that I had got to that smack of a moment where there's no looking back. That thing happened that you can't even go back if you wanted to. And that was when I made the decision to be like, okay, what do I want now? But people can do that at any point in their life. And to be so self-aware, when I talk to ChatGPT to understand my thoughts sometimes, what it tells me the most is that I'm so self-aware within a situation that I could see what's going on internally within it without needing to remove myself. So being able to self-aware, self-analyze of, being emotionally intelligent and emotionally regulated comes with that understanding. So once I started learning about all these energy chakras, and I've never truly been like a jealous person. So like that didn't really register, but pretty much all the other ones, they really did. I was like, wow, like I actually am pretty discombobulated here. So when I started YouTubing, it told me that I needed to meditate. And this girl, if anybody had known me up to, I'm 30, I'm about to be 34. If you've known me up to 32 years old, I don't know if anybody's seen the movie called, oh my God. Anyway, this kid buys a college and he, let me tell the story first. Oh my goodness, I lost my train of thought.
You talk about the meditation.
Oh, yes, thank you. Sorry, my brain goes a little,
It's okay.
there's a part in the scene where he buys this college and he's trying to teach people how to meditate. And there's one kid that runs up and they're all sitting and they're all doing this. And he just runs up into the middle of the circle and he sits down. He takes one deep breath. He goes, that was great. He gets up and runs away. So that used to be me trying to tell me, this girl who's always running around, going on 100, to sit down and breathe for a minute. I was that kid. I was like, you want me to sit down and do what? Just sit here and breathe? And so I did. 5 minutes was hard to really sit there to tell yourself that this is what I have to do in the beginning. But then as I was forcing myself to do it and I was listening to the words, the guided meditation that I chose, I was able to focus more on what she was saying rather than focusing on the fact that I'm supposed to be breathing, which, yes, I know one's supposed to be more important than the other. But in the beginning, I was like, okay, I like what this woman's saying. I like what she's having me think about. I like that, I wasn't thinking about the other things that I was needing to think about, or if I was stressed or whatnot. So I started just doing 5-minute meditations. And, for anybody who's starting to get into it or who's even just excited about or nervously excited about it, is to think to like myself to say, hey, you have to sit here and breathe. I want to tell people it's about understanding why you're doing it. What are you going to get out of it? Right? Because telling yourself you have to do something doesn't feel good to anybody. But if you're like, hey, if I sit down here for 5 minutes, 10 minutes max, this is the benefit. You get to tell yourself that you don't have to worry about anything right now. You start to gain that belief that everything's happening the way it's supposed to, right? So you start gaining that new illusion of like, okay, now that I'm actually sitting here in silence, everything that kind of felt chaotic is actually a little bit calmer, or that thing that I forgot, just I remembered, or, just the benefits of actually saying those affirmations to yourself, they do create energy within your body. And someone who's just starting, you're like, what do you mean? I can't just listen to words and there's just gonna be energy formulating in my body. And I'm like, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna try. And my boyfriend's a nice example too, because he didn't really meditate prior to us meeting. And now sometimes I'll be the one who doesn't say it, and he'll be like, hey, we're gonna meditate right now. I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, let's do it. Um, it's a huge factor. And then using that time to, I started doing each one of the chakras. So I did the whole series. Day one, I would do the root, then I did the sacral, solar plexus, and heart the next day, and so forth. So then I started feeling the differences within my body, understanding like where the words that she were saying, were they resonating with me? Or is this something where I'm like, okay, this one must be pretty clear. This one isn't very blocked because I feel the energy flow. And then I started realizing that my solar plexus down was pretty much the problem. My heart chakra, I've been pretty loving for the most part. Um, my throat chakra definitely was blocked. And then the third eye and your crown chakra were, I call it tempting, right? Because like it resonated, but I didn't really understand, right? That was what was building through learning all about the chakras. I'm like, okay, now the connection to source, what is that? You mean I could have constant connection? So again, trying to ignore what society would think is crazy, right? Having people in your life that you can't really share this information with, because if you do, they either don't understand or they think you're crazy. So, you know, going through life trying to master the things that I've been technically mastering, getting to a point now where I'm like, okay, all you got to do is be yourself. And in a world that tells you you can't, that's the hardest thing. Because we all know what it feels like to work really hard, to put all of our energy into something, to pay somebody else's bills, to pay for somebody else to go on vacation while you're over here struggling to pay all of your bills. Society, I believe, has created so much fear around being yourself, fear around being different, fear around failing, that those are, if you ask any successful person, failure is all part of the plan, right? You have to fail in order to learn. You have to, if we all woke up and we were exactly our highest version of ourselves and we knew exactly what was going to happen at every point in time, life wouldn't be as exciting as it is. And I think that the perspective on life has just gotten a little too many people in control with negative minds have placed too much negative energy around people feeling that if I be myself, well, I'm not going to be accepted. I'm not going to be, special. And I think that's exactly what they've mastered doing, because that's exactly what I'm here teaching people to break free from. Like, as scary as it feels to be yourself, whose life are you living? Like, do you want your life or do you want to live life for somebody else? And I had to, when I got exiled from my family, they got so angry with me that I said no. And I'm like, what do you mean no? Like, I don't have money to help you. I don't have resources to help you. And I'm not even in the same state as you. Like, how do you want me to help you? And they're like, you're not a, what their last name is Reed. They're like, you're not a Reed, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. Like, I had to, at that point, I had to put my foot down. I couldn't keep giving all of my energy. And what they were asking me to do was put my life on hold that I had just started creating for the chaos they kept choosing. And I'm like, I can't go down that road with you. I can't keep doing the drug stories and the crazy, I was like, I just can't do that with you anymore. I have to choose me. And then they exiled me from the family. And, but that was the greatest gift that they could have ever given me, because at that point I was living life for them. I was living life to make my aunt happy. I was doing what they wanted me to do in their eyes, that made them think that I was doing what they wanted me to do. And at the end of the day, that they gave me a gift of freedom, because from that moment, even though, yes, it came with, as you could see, a lot of lessons,
Yeah.
ultimately it brought me to authenticity, that there is nobody in this world that can tell me who I am, even if it's a dark side. If they go, oh, you're too this, and I'll be like, you're right, but that's okay, I'm working on it, right? There's nobody that can truly get my energy to shift by telling me who I am or they think that I am. And I think another thing I've been talking about a lot is the being the bigger person, right? There's like this huge controversy around I don't want to be the bigger person. And it's like, but at the energetic exchange of things, once you start getting to this a level of awareness where you do get past a part in your life where you don't feel like you're done healing all the trauma that you've had. Now it's just healing to become a better version of yourself, which is a totally different, game. You're not sitting there with all of your sad, hurtful moments. You're more of just like, okay, that journal, this is who I am. Yes, there's the light and the dark in here, but I'm going to honor it. And now I'm going to move forward through whatever that is. And being the bigger person starts coming down to once you start putting all of this energy into yourself, once you start, uplifting your energy, healing your trauma. And then, most of the time you're doing this in solitude. When you put yourself out there past your front door, and you're met with people who we see it as judging, right? Oh, they're below us. They're not as healed as us. It's really we're judging ourselves, but the compassion has to kick in. Kind of like my drug addict boyfriend is like, just because you're aware that you are more healed than them, if at arm's distance is what you need, but you can't allow those people to bring you down. If you're putting all this energy into yourself, making sure you're good, making sure your positive thoughts, making sure your mindset's good, you can't have someone come in and just completely distort everything that you've put into yourself just so you can say, well, I'm a bigger person. It's like the bigger person is like, what do you want in life? Do you want your next manifestation, or do you want to spend the next 2 days refocusing your thoughts because this person just took you down a rabbit hole of negativity? So like being the bigger person, I think today to shift that is you're putting all this energy into yourself. There are going to be people until you eradicate them, right? The ones, the bad eggs, the family members that need boundaries. Obviously, there are going to be some that don't allow you to have those. And then you have to decide for yourself, do you want a family member in your life to keep them happy? Or do you want to create a life because I believe God put you in that family dynamic so that you understood your worth? And it's not our job to fix, not even our family members. Because I think for me, coming out of all of my childhood, I became the fixer, right? So like I was like, I'm gonna fix this relationship. I'm gonna fix this relationship. I'm gonna fix your drug addiction, right? And it's like anybody ask me now, there's no fixing. There's no fixing. So um yeah. And now I I think the mindset of coming out of lack mentality has been my longest trial and tribulation on the spiritual journey. Coming from lack, right? You don't notice how negative you're speaking to yourself until you're either called out, which that would mean somebody would have to be more healed than you. And most of the time we're in the room with the same people that that my goodness, I'm getting brain farts over here.
It's okay.
Yes. Oh, what I've been mastering now has just been the lack mindset around, again, the needing and wanting things. Because in my lessons, if I needed or wanted love, it came with a lot of lessons that I just needed to love myself. Right? If we need
100%. Yeah. Love yourself first.
right? And then money has been the biggest thing. From reading Rich Dad Poor Dad to money, money loves me, or love money, money loves me. That book basically teaches you how to speak to money. That there's like a universe just for money, right? There's a universe for God, and then there's a universe for money, and that universe is listening. So my entire life, and most people, when they say, "Oh my God, I want money, I need money," and then it's what I didn't realize is that every time I said I needed or wanted money, the universe goes, "Well, damn, Destiny, now I got to give you all these reasons why you need and want money." So, parking tickets, bills, flat tires, all of these stupid things that, us as a human in the 3D world, we keep going, why me? Why are you doing this? But then we're at home and we're going, I need more money. I need more bills, and then you read that book and I'm like, wow, you are the creator. And speaking to money is a whole reason why we do have all of these problems. So when you go back to being grateful with God, it's about gratitude, right? You can't need or want anything. That's basically telling God it's not good enough. So it's about expressing the gratitude in what you want. So changing the wording, it's like, yes, it's great that you can be aware that yes, you need money to pay those bills. That's an awareness. But when speaking to the universe, it's I'm so grateful that yada yada yada. And what's crazy is when I was telling my mom, my grandmother, about what manifesting is, and um, I was telling her, I said, Mom, what makes you happy? She's retired and she's solo. She's like, I love going to the flower shop. I go, okay. And I was like, why are you like going to the flower shop? She goes, it's my favorite flowers there. And I go, well, she goes, to see if my favorite flower's there. And I go, okay. And I was trying to teach her about being grateful. And I was like, so instead of waking up and saying that today is a good day if you get to the flower shop, why don't you wake up and say today's a great day because your favorite flowers at the flower shop? And she goes, how can I be grateful for something if it's not happened yet? And I go, isn't this the contradictory of the entire world right now? Is because when you first start learning how to, you got to start to learn to meditate. That's the beginning to working into manifesting. So it's like your mindset's really important, right? To get to that point where you're convincing yourself something you don't have yet, which sounds like a superpower, but there's so many people who are still willing to fight that. So my grandmother being one of those people. And I was like, so why does every day can be a great day just because it is? And that everything that happens after that is the reason why it's a good day, not needing something to happen in order for it to be a good day. And she couldn't, regardless if it was her age or her stubbornness, I wasn't sure at this point, but I tried as hard as I could to get her to understand. But she kept saying, how do you want me to believe in something that hasn't happened yet? And I go, well, Mom, I guess that's your journey to figure out. um, so I definitely there, and as I'm doing my TikTok videos, I'm starting to realize like some of the messages that I'm receiving as these people are hearing my story, little bits of it, and they're starting to be curious about the things that they're doing in their life, whether it is minor manifesting, because some people think that you have to be this healed person in order to do it. It's just no, like how authentically aligned is that desire? Because if you want that because you've been thinking about it your entire life, but you've been suppressing it because everybody told you not to do it, if that's an authentic desire, I tell people all the time, if it feels good, there's a really good possibility of it working out because energetically, there's nothing that's going to be bad for you that's going to feel good. When they say we're born with knowing right from wrong, it's not that we know right from wrong. It's that we feel internally what feels good and what doesn't feel good. As children, we haven't mastered that feeling, but when we get older, it's we know. And even if we're unaware that what we do isn't affecting or adding that ripple, that's where we still have to come back and like, okay, well, if your life is not what you want it to be, that's where the awareness has to come in. Like when you show up in a room, what is your energy put off? And authenticity is the scariest thing for people because it's not what many people have been told haven't been given permission to be. And that I think is the space that I hold for people when they talk to me and they open up and they vent and they're like, I don't even know why I just told you that. And it's because it's your life. Most people want to be heard, they want to be seen. And I think in a world that has forced us to be all of these things so fast that many of us haven't been given the time to ask ourselves, are we good? What do we need? Because I know when I was growing up, it's what does everybody in the room need so that I feel safe? What do my partners need so that I feel loved? Right. And what I would just love for people to take away from this entire story is because I don't even know how long I've been talking
So
is
we still have the time that you give, you kind of close it. Yeah, but I'm gonna listen to you because I have some few questions that came here to me to ask, but I'll let you finish the thought. Go ahead.
Yeah. Um, is I just want people to not be scared to be their authentic self. That in a world that's telling you to be small, be quiet, don't shine, don't take up space, that it the exact rules they gave you to feel the way that you're feeling right now. That liberation comes from doing exactly the opposite of what they said, right? Success is not something that you chase. You know, it's something that you embody. You know, if you do all of these things in life and you're happy with all the things you've accomplished, I think that would feel successful. You know, if you don't, if I'm successful right now with having $102 in my bank account, I would go to the grave thinking that I've lived the best life ever, that I'm abundant, that I have everything that I need, that the crazy thing is, again, like I said about lack of money, is it's been so hard to convince myself that I have what's not in my bank account, to believe that it could just money comes from unexpected and surprising places. To get to a point where I energetically believe that has been my truest connection to source. To truly believe that even though I don't have what that next bill says is due, that by the time that bill comes, somehow or the other, that money was put in my bank account. I've had $200 deposited from Cash App from people that had no reason putting $200 in my Cash App, to a night where we're super slow and I don't go in worrying about money. I haven't been going in worrying about what I was going to make. I've just told myself I'm going in. I'm going to have a great night. I'm going to love all of my customers because I love selling food. I'm a chef. So like I let people taste it in their head before they order it. So I really love that. And again, just people tipping extra, tipping more than they should. And a night that I shouldn't have made that much money, I made what I needed for my car payment tomorrow, which is not a cheap car payment, right? And it's like there was nobody else had a night like that. So it's just the true belief that I know that I'm truly taken care of, that root chakra of like, I am provided for. I do have my basic needs. No, yes, I still allow myself to get Dunkin' and not feel bad because I deserve that. But I'm not, frivolously going shopping and doing all these things. I'm making sure I allow myself to buy food. And the funny thing with that is, I don't know why I hold food against myself sometimes. I'm like, oh, I'm penny pinching. I'm not going to buy this extra food today. But when I actually talk to myself and I go, no, Destiny, you deserve this. This is part of your basics. In that moment, almost every time my food gets paid for. Either the clerk says, oh, Destiny, I haven't seen you in a while. I'm just going to take care of this today. Or the pizza lady will go, you've eaten here enough this week. I'm not going to charge you for this one. So it's crazy. It's just the trust in believing that one, you deserve it,
Mm.
one, you're worthy, and two, you it's not expected. Even though like in definition it is expected, right? You're manifesting things on purpose, but it's not expected. It's trust. It's faith. And that is the greatest thing, that I get to wake up every day and I no longer have to feel that anxiety. And again, like I've had way less money in my bank account and been way more stressed. But to know like all of this faith that the actions that I'm taking, the passion that I have about what I want to do next with my life, and just I literally manifested you. I literally said I wanted to be on somebody's podcast. And
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
no
there you
joke,
go.
no
See,
joke, and
and I
about
believe it. Reach out to you, and yeah, that's how the universe was. But I say to you, my friend, it's I'm listening to you all this time. We've been talking here for close an hour, 25 minutes. But was not an easy journey that you went through, But even though, so many things that are happening to you, the reason we're kind of looking for love is because it's something that you never had. But you said something that resonates to me a lot. That I believe no everyone needs to hit the bottom, you know, bottom to low, to wake up, to go through our way. I believe that, but sometimes some people they do need to reach there and sometimes they never come back. They stay there and died. But what I love about you that you ask them for help. You know what I mean? So you felt, this is not who I am anymore. I know it's time for me to change because God's angels are constantly talking to us to help us. They cannot interfere. They cannot stop us. This is part of a journey. I mean, but if you ask, if you ask, and
Mhm.
then things will come to you. And that's when you did, But when you look yourself now, say, and you look back and say, wow, I know that you are grateful for everything that you went through, for all the people, family, relationship, all the things, because now you are in such a beautiful place because the lessons that you went through, you took the time, to set with all those things. It just let me take, a little here, a little there, you know what I
Mhm.
mean, and I use it for my own growth. That's what I did with my life,
I turned pain into
Yeah,
power. It was it
yeah,
was it was my energy. It was what I needed to push myself forward. And I tell
yeah.
people all the time, like, hit rock bottom as many times as it takes. Don't
I,
I
I,
don't
I
want
went, I
people.
went I
Mhm.
went through, I went over this many times, my friend, many
Yeah.
times. But at least like I talked to you before, I hear some questions come to. I have some few questions here. We should have a little bit time, if you don't mind, just
Mhm.
we can, you don't need to, if you don't, if you want, you don't need to spend a lot of time. But some few questions that came in here, and I'd like to ask to you. One, the first one, if you hate, if you hate your parents,
No, I
no.
do not. For a really long time, as you start going through and learning, how your parents neglected you and what you didn't receive through your childhood, there obviously comes a lot of anger, right? Because you're like, why were you such a bad parent? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And if we look at our own scenarios, right, there's situations where we have only two options and we choose the one in that moment that best suited us. When somebody else looks at that situation and they go, well, why did you choose that option? Because they didn't know, they weren't living that example, right? So um
Cynthia.
yeah, right, but my leg's going dead. Okay, there we go. um no, sorry.
You're right about the parents because I went through a lot to my father as well. Yeah,
Sorry, my dog was eating her leg. um she had a little cut.
okay.
um yeah, no, my sister is actually, we're two different people through our childhood, and I've definitely done the healing. And the last time that we spoke, we ended up getting a conversation, and she's very angry with our mom, and she's no longer with us, but she was able to express that to her prior to her passing. And I was like, Ashley, I was like, you have to understand, like, we weren't her. Like, look at what she put herself through. Like, she was beat, right, by all of the men she chose. And I was like, look at what she chose to keep us safe, because we weren't ever touched. Like, we weren't, I mean, my mom threw me around like a rag doll a little bit, but for the most part, she tried her best. And looking back at that, when I was younger, no, I couldn't see that. But as you heal, you have those two options, right? You have get really upset. Why me? Why'd you do this? Or you have compassion that this woman did the best that she could, and it still wasn't good enough for anybody, right? So she's, like I said, my mom's unfortunately no longer here, but my sister is still really angry at her. And I was like, you're judging you're angry because you're judging your situation, you're judging yourself. I
Yeah,
said,
100%. Yeah, I have a sister. It's the same situation. My dad already passed now, about 4 years now, and she still hated him. She's still unable to forgive him.
and the thing is you hold that energy within you. Like, you think just saying, oh, I hate my
Yeah,
parents, weight on you, but it's just like saying the difference between not buying something is the thing. But I could either say I'm broke, or I'm choosing not to spend money on that right now. I used to say I'm broke, but that made you feel really bad. But if you say, I'm just choosing not to spend money on that right now, it makes you seem a little bit more professional, a little bit more caring, but it changes the energy within your body. So if you were able to stop saying within yourself, oh, I hate my parents, and rather just be like, okay, this is the life God put me in on purpose. It's not your job to change your parents. The only thing that you can do, and what I love speaking
Choose
lastly,
we
it,
choose a parents, and I mean the lessons that we need to go through, we
yep,
just don't remember. But yeah, I chose my father as well, and I mean to do all the things that he did, But I'm grateful, through him I was able, to connect, with a condition of forgiveness. And through him I was able, to connect with unconditional love. I was able to forgive him unconditionally. If I was able to love him before he passed, I was able to call him and I say to him that I love him, and I did
I
that.
was able to do that, but my sister was not. She
Yeah,
ended
but
on the angry note.
so you know what I'm talking about, because what's the
Yeah.
best thing that I did for myself, not for him, but for myself, and for the son that I have now. But at least thank for that. The other question that came here to me, if you if you regret anything,
No, no, regret would mean that you had an option to do something a different way. And I believe that everything is happening the way that it's supposed to, even in the moments of redirection or, AKA a mistake. I believe that, God already knows everything that we're going to do from start to finish. Obviously, you can trick him a little bit and take a path that, in a, but he's still
I never heard that
ultimately.
before. This is you can trick God a little bit. That was good, man. That was
Well,
good.
what
Only
I'm,
you, Elise, but only you can do that, because I don't think anybody else think they can do that.
well,
You're
well,
good. You're
well,
good.
what I
No,
mean is
listen,
like,
we're gonna have another conversation. How to trick God? Yeah, I'm gonna invite you again, so we're gonna talk about this. I
no, no,
love.
it's a no. What I mean by that is like it's like for instance, when I was with my drug addict, right? I do believe he was trying. In the beginning, I really do believe my energy allowed him to see a different way of life. I just feel like he wasn't able to bring himself out of that. But what I mean by like tricking God is like he was telling me and doing some actionary steps that proved that he was going to get better, be better, do better for himself. But then ultimately, stopped making the choice to get better and they went backwards. So that's pretty much what I mean by tricking God is like obviously God already
I
knows that that was going to be your intent because he's the know all. But kind of like, oh yeah, you're gonna keep saying you're gonna do these things, but then you're just gonna, nope, just kidding.
That's beautiful. Thank you. That was beautiful. Yeah, because I was listening to you. I had a time there in my life in the past that I was connected to drugs. I was connected to alcohol. This to fill up a void for the things that I went through when I was a child. And but unconscious, no, conscious, I thought it was fine, right? But unconscious, I was hurting myself, I was hurting the people that I love. I was looking for love, but I didn't know how to love and how to receive love as well. But this is a long story, but I was able, to work a lot with myself, do a lot of inner work to myself, and heal myself from free myself, from those addictions. I never look for a professional help. I never looking for anyone. I only I reach out to God many times. It took a while. It was not just like that. It took a
Mm-hmm.
while, but I learned it, now I'm in a better place, and I am in a very beautiful place. But I don't exactly know what you said is 100% true, because I was there before. The boyfriend that you had before, I was there before. You know what I mean? So the situation, I had someone say the same things, did the same things with me, tried to help with so much love. Love deeply, deep inside, you know what I mean? But
You
I,
weren't able to hold it.
at all. At all, you know what I mean? So, yeah, but like I said, now I'm grateful for everything, and I forgive it myself. I forgive everyone as well. But now I'm in a different place. I've been single for over 7 years right now, since I separated, divorced my son's mother. And I'm happy with the life that I live. I know someday someone will come, But now I'm in such a beautiful place. They cannot be just anyone. Has
Yeah.
to be someone. Has to be someone close or above my level right now. They cannot be someone way too here low because I don't have the time to ask anyone or spend that much time to bring someone to my level. With all my respect, I'm not judging anyone, but I make this decision in my life, for someone someday to come into my life has to be close to my level because I'm in a beautiful place. I'm in
Yeah.
a very beautiful place. And I know all the work, me that I have to do to myself, how I can say, no, I don't like to say that, but this one I can speak how hard it was for me to be here at this place. Because my own resistance,
Hmm.
before I was listening 100% my ego guidance, So now I was able, like I said, to free myself for so many things. I'm in a very beautiful place. But like I said, when you reach that level, you're not gonna allow anyone or anything anymore come to your life and try to destroy it or try to do anything with you anymore. You know better now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So this is beautiful. Tanto que eu share there. And the other thing that another question that came here to me to ask you, there's how to choose. Oh, this is a good question. How to
Hmm.
choose the right person? Oh, this is a good question.
So that's
Yeah,
easy.
excuse me, before we answer, I just want to say something that this question that I'm asking here is not for me, okay? This question came for someone they are going to listen to
Yeah,
this
no, no.
conversation that I had for her. So that's the question I feel like it's
I'm
not
better.
me,
I'm better with
it came to
questions.
me. But anyway, so like I said, this is one of those questions that came to me, how to choose the right person.
Yes. Well, considering my track history, so who's to even say now I'm in a completely healthy relationship? But what I've learned is that through my childhood, through writing letters to someone who didn't speak, writing letters to someone who told me I'm crazy, not being able to have my love held, that when you get into a relationship, first thing is energy, right? Are you sitting next to this person and do you like their energy? Because if you don't, there's not amount how many dates you're going to go on that's going to change that, right? That's just who they are. So that's just real simple right there, which is again, well, dating apps, you're not going to get that energy exchange until you see them. So why are you going to waste countless hours talking to somebody who within 5 seconds you're going to know is a waste of time? So that's why dating apps aren't really a thing. Speaking your mind, right? We've been in so many situations from childhood to neglectful relationships to even career where it's don't say anything, don't say anything, just keep the peace, be love, but don't say anything. That ultimately, until you get to a place where you have everything that you want, you are in that desired relationship. I've learned that most people aren't mind readers, right? So there's a percentage that in a relationship that people just do. It's how they show up to the table, right? That's great. You have to love that. Then there are the things you have to talk about or the things that somebody does that you might not like. I've spent an entire relationship tiptoeing around people. I've had a childhood of walking on eggshells to make sure I didn't say the wrong thing. That realized that when I didn't say something, that the thing I didn't say in the beginning came the thing at the end that didn't, that ended the relationship. So I just say everything. Say it with kindness, say it from your heart. But
Love what you
anything.
said. Say it with kindness. Oh, I love.
Yes. So like if your heart, especially if you're a woman or a feminine in this situation, that obviously we have more emotions, generally speaking, um, that
Yeah.
the difference between a healed and an unhealed soul is the difference of how something gets resolved, right? Because nobody's perfect. Sometimes you might come in a little heated and say that thing not quite from the heart, but are you able to express yourself? And are they able to hold that information? And then are they able to have a conversation with you? Maybe that person asks for a day because it's something they want to think about. And in my life, that makes me stressed out. But I would rather give that person 24 hours to come back with a thoughtful, response than that quick egotistical response, right? So having a person that you can just speak your mind to, even if you come up to them with your nails in your fingers or your nails in your mouth and you're like, I just got to say this thing. And in my brain, it's like, this is going to be the thing that ends the relationship, right? But I would rather know that that thing I said is either going to end the relationship right now than to not say it and have however long it's going to be. And then all of a sudden that thing comes up. So, whatever you're anxious, just say it. Because if you have a healthy relationship, they'll be able to come back to you and be like, honey, that was too much. But I feel you, I hear you. And then you're going to feel better. And then coming out of some really crappy situations, you're going to, that part is what you have to work on, the communication. Because a lot of people, and especially myself, and even in my current relationship, nobody's a mind reader. You want to be seen, you want to be heard, you want to be understood. So expressing yourself and then having a person who doesn't tell you you're crazy or making it up and actually makes you feel better, that is just going to be out the most important thing. Can you express yourself? Can you be yourself? Because we're in a world that is made up of masks. We're masks at work, we're masks with our friends, we're masks with our parents, and most of the time we're masked with our partners. You know, what does our partner need? That's doing it as a, this is what I have to do in order to keep myself safe, is different than, I love you, what can I do for you? So I think that having somebody that you can express, having somebody that you can just wake up and be yourself and them not judge you. But with that is, how are you showing up as well? Can you evaluate yourself as a person? How am I showing up in a relationship? What am I asking for? And do I bring that to the table? If I'm asking for my partner to not yell at me while we're, that's not what happens. But if I'm asking my partner to not yell at me, am I coming to the conversation of like a bat out of hell? No, then I think whoever is bringing something to the table, execution, authenticity, and expression are the most biggest things, because you're already going to choose somebody you know looks nice. Nobody's over here picking the, you know, somebody that they're not attracted to. So I hate when people say that first. Like, you're always going to choose someone you're attracted to. That's like hands down. Does their energy match? Do you like just being in their energy? Can you be yourself? Can you be the goofball that you are? Can you talk about the random things that somebody else you might think would think you're stupid for? Because at the end of the day, you, you want people to know who you are. And in order to people to know who you are, you have to show up as you are in that authentic state. Because if you show up doing X, Y, and Z every day because that's what you were told to do, and then one day you're like, you know what? It's been a year and a half. I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to be me. And now you're mad at this person who's like, well, now you're this person and you weren't that person before. And it's like, yeah, but now you're not loving me for me. And it's like, yeah, but I thought I loved that version of you. And now we have this huge disconnect. So it's like, just so be so unapologetically you, that don't worry about the 99% that walk away. Just be really excited about that 1% that's still hanging out. Because eventually, when you put yourself in enough places where 99% of the people walk away, you'll have a cluster of people who are here for you, with you, supporting you. And I'm always about not being the not being the smartest person in the room, but I don't think that really has anything to do with relationships.
That's
But
beautiful.
yeah, just be
That's beautiful.
yourself. Just be yourself.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. Okay, so I want to say thank you very much, for your time. But before we finish, I have a three questions in here that I always ask, for my guests. Now, like with the 2 or 3 words, what I mean, you can just tell me, who is God?
Who is God?
God. Yeah.
God is all. I mean, to say that there's like some dictionary definition of like he's the creator of all things, I just think that in my mind, there is something that put all of this together and created this experience. And regardless of the word, again, people want to put to it God, source, creator. Um, I think it's just a universal belief that we we're taking ourselves for granted almost as a human being, as a human population, because just because we see ourselves as this flesh and blood and we go to the doctor and get a checkup, it's like, again, when I started learning about energy chakras, is like, we're literally just the skin. right? And when we die, we fall to the floor and then we just drag it somewhere else, right? So it's we are we I say that we are the universe expressing itself. So we're doing a misuse of being anything other than what the universe intended us to be. And I don't know why I feel called to say this, but like the gay community, right? In the Bible, I don't know where, but I know that there's nowhere that it has to say that it has to be a man and woman. Because if God created people who can't have kids, whether it's, autonomy or maybe they were born without a uterus, like God created those people too. And so when I look at it like that, I'm like, I just see like how we've created this stigma. And I just think people just love is love. Like love is blind. If you were closed your eyes, you can still fall in love with somebody, regardless of what they look like or what their voice sounds like. It's energy. We're matching our souls. So I don't know if that went off Taylor, but
No,
that's what
no,
I
no.
think.
It came for your heart. Thank you. And the second one, it is why forgive?
Was that
Why forgive?
why forgive? Well,
Uh,
forgiveness is definitely for yourself. It's your
uh,
understanding that whatever somebody did to you, that's just a level of consciousness that they're at. And I've heard this thing, there's a difference between judgment and discernment, right? Or maybe those weren't the two words that I'm remembering, but one is basically like judging them for right or wrong, whereas discernment is like, does this really work for me, right? As I don't want to tell you you're a bad person for what you did, but now I get to decide that you are not the company that I choose to keep. One
mhm.
saying who you are as a person, the other is saying I don't agree with your choices.
Yeah, beautiful thing. And the last one, why we here?
We are here to remember who we are. I
I
believe,
love, I love, I love.
yeah, we're these souls with no, whatever we're doing up there, right? And then we make the decision to sign a contract to come down here. There's stories of kids who will remember things up to a certain point, and then by like age 4, they like forget all of these like spiritual little things. Um, and that our duty is to come down here to fulfill that contract. And that contract is the authentic version of us. But the fucked up part is that they go, well, you will get ultimate enlightenment. You will have everything that you need. But guess what? You're going to go through everything you didn't ask for. But it's so you appreciate it
I
on the
love,
other side.
I love. Thank you. So just do me a favor. Just tell how people can find you. Whatever you, if you have a website or TikTok, whatever it is, how people can find you, maybe connect with you.
I do. I have a website. I do. I am about to create my own YouTube channel, but right now I'm doing. I do TikTok for my longer videos, and I have a journal that's published on Amazon, Walmart, and Barnes and Nobles. It's the transformation journey to remembering who you are. It's called How I Can Change the World. I have a podcast. Right now, it's on Spotify. Apple Music will be next, but that's called Trust Yourself, Grow Yourself. And it's all the lessons and knowledge that you need to help create a much easier, fulfilled, and happier life built on your terms.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Destiny, and thank you once again to be so open, to come here, to share a part of, journey in this incarnation, so many things that you went through, but the most important and beautiful thing is just now to people can see you now. You are a happy person. You are someone that loves yourself so much. You are someone that has so much understanding right now. You are someone that has so much forgiveness right now than never before. More knowledge, more experience, you know what I mean? More determination than never before because the things that you went through before. It is something that back then I couldn't understand why I was going through so much stuff, but now I understand it now, and then now I'm grateful because this guy here. Even sometimes I tell people, thank God when I was young, cell phone was not a thing back then. You know what I mean? And people say, "Shit, man, this oh my, oh my God, this you used to be." Oh, I can't believe Nanda. Yeah, that's you. I don't, it must be your twin brother or something like that. You know what I mean? They said, no, it was me, man, it was me. But back then, we don't have cell phone, YouTube, Facebook. So back then, you were capable to go to Vegas and whatever you did over there, you should stay in Vegas. But now with cell phone, not stay in Vegas no more, no.
Nope,
You know, people say, whatever happens in Vegas, stay in Vegas. Not anymore.
not
Not
anymore.
anymore. But listen, thank you so much again. So just sit there for a moment. I'm going to stop here, but I just want to say thank you. I mean, say something to you. Thank you so much, everyone, to spend this time, to listen to this conversation. Once again, please feel free to subscribe this channel, or maybe share this video, with someone that maybe you think they can help them. Feel free to make any comments as well. I bless everyone with infinite abundance, and I'm sending lots of love, here energy for everyone. I love you all. Thank you for love. Namaste. This one moment, my friend. Let me stop this in here.